Chapter 11 of Stories of King Arthur and His Knights. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Stories of King Arthur and His Knights by U. Waldo Cutler. Chapter 11. A Nighttime Adventure of Sir Launcelot. In fulfilment of his oath as a knight of the Round Table, Sir Launcelot rode into many strange and wild countries and through many waters and valleys. He slew Sir Turquine, who watched to destroy knights, and he clove the head of another false traitor who attended to destroy and distress ladies, damsels, and gentlewomen. Other wrongs besides these he righted, and bravely withstood many a struggle. Now on a day it chanced that he passed a deep forest, where, as often before, he found strait lodging. But he was brave and strong, and feared no hardship, provided he did nothing contrary to his honour as a worthy knight. As he was riding over a long bridge, there started upon him suddenly a passing foul churl, who struck his horse upon the nose, and asked Sir Launcelot why he rode over that bridge without licence. "Why should I not ride this way?" said Sir Launcelot. "It is the way I choose to ride." "Thou shalt not choose," said the churl, and began to beat him with his great club shod with iron. Sir Launcelot drew his sword, and made short work of this rough porter. Then he rode right on to the end of the bridge, through the fair village, where all the people in vain gave him warning, and on straight into the green courtyard of the castle, which was Tintagel in Cornwall. Anon there came upon him two great giants, with horrible clubs in their hands. With shield and sword he soon laid on the earth one of these giants. The other ran away for fear of the horrible strokes, and Sir Launcelot entered the hall. Here he set free 70 gentlewomen, who for 7 years had been prisoners of the two giants, working all manner of silk works for their food. "Show me such cheer as ye have," said Sir Launcelot, "and what treasure there is in this castle, I give you a reward for your grievance." Then soon he mounted his horse again, and rode away upon further adventure. One night he came to the courtyard of an old gentleman, who lodged him with a good will, and there he had good cheer for himself and his horse. When time was, his host brought him into a fair garret over the gate to his bed. There Sir Launcelot unarmed him, set his armour beside him, and went to bed, and anon fell asleep. Soon afterward there came one on horseback, and knocked at the gate in great haste. When Sir Launcelot heard this, he arose up and looked out at the window, and saw by the moonlight 3 knights come after that one man. All 3 lashed on him at once with swords, and that one knight turned on them knightly again, and defended himself. "Truly," said Sir Launcelot, "yonder one knight shall I help, for it were shame for me to see 3 knights on one, and if he be slain I am partner in his death." Therewith he took his armour, and let himself down from the window by a sheet to the 4 knights. "Turn you knights unto me," cried Sir Launcelot aloud, "and leave your fighting with that knight." And then they all 3 left Sir Kay, for it was he who was so hard bestead, and turned unto Sir Launcelot. And there began great battle, for they alighted, all 3, and struck many great strokes at Sir Launcelot, and assailed him on every side. Sir Kay would have helped him, but Sir Launcelot suffered him not, and anon within 6 strokes he had struck all 3 to the earth. Sir Launcelot made them yield themselves to Sir Kay, and promised to go next Whitsunday to the court as prisoners of Queen Guenever. So they were suffered to depart, and Sir Launcelot knocked at the gate with the pommel of his sword. The host came, and they entered, Sir Kay and he. "Sir," said the host, "I thought you were in your bed." "So I was," said Sir Launcelot, "but I arose and leapt out at my window to help an old fellow of mine." When they came nigh the light, Sir Kay knew well that it was Sir Launcelot, and therewith he kneeled down and thanked him for all his kindness, that he had holpen him from death. "Sir," said Sir Launcelot, "I have done nothing but that I ought to do, and ye are welcome, and here shall ye repose you, and take your rest." So when Sir Kay was unarmed he asked for meat. There was meat fetched him, and he ate strongly. Then they went to their beds, and Sir Launcelot and Sir Kay were lodged together in one bed. On the morn Sir Launcelot arose early, and left Sir Kay sleeping. He put on Sir Kay's armour, and took his shield, and so went to the stable. He here got Sir Kay's horse, took leave of his host, and so departed. Then soon afterward Sir Kay arose. He missed Sir Launcelot, and then he espied that his armour and his horse had been taken. "Now, by my faith," said he, "I know well that he will grieve some of the court of King Arthur, for my armour and horse will beguile all knights. They will believe it is I, and will be bold to him, and because I have his armour and shield, I am sure I shall ride in peace." Then soon afterward Sir Kay thanked his host and departed. So Sir Launcelot rode into a deep forest, and there in a dell he saw 4 knights standing under an oak, and they were of Arthur's court. Anon as they espied Sir Launcelot, they thought by his arms it was Sir Kay. "Now, by my faith," said Sir Sagramore, one of the 4 knights, "I will prove Sir Kay's might." So he got his spear in his hand, and came toward Sir Launcelot. Therewith Sir Launcelot was ware, and knew him well, and he smote Sir Sagramore so sore that horse and man fell both to the earth. "Lo, my fellows," said Sir Ector, another of the 4, "yonder ye may see what a buffet he hath. That knight is much bigger than ever was Sir Kay. Now shall ye see what I may do to him." So Sir Ector got his spear in his hand, and galloped toward Sir Launcelot, and Sir Launcelot smote him through shield and shoulder, so that horse and man went to the earth, and ever his spear held. "By my faith," said Sir Uwaine, "yonder is a strong knight, and I am sure he hath slain Sir Kay, and I see by his great strength it will be hard to match him." Therewithal Sir Uwaine gat his spear in his hand, and rode toward Sir Launcelot. Sir Launcelot knew him well, and so he met him on the plain, and gave him such a buffet that he was stunned, and long he wist not where he was. "Now see I well," said Sir Gawaine, the last of the 4 knights, "I must encounter with that knight." Then he dressed his shield, and gat a good spear in his hand, and then they let run their horses with all their mights, and either knight smote other in midst of the shield. But Sir Gawaine's spear brake, and Sir Launcelot charged so sore upon him that his horse reversed up so down. Much sorrow had Sir Gawaine to get clear of his horse, and so Sir Launcelot passed on apace, and smiled and said, "God give him joy that made this spear, for there came never a better in my hand." Then the 4 knights went each one to other, and comforted each other. "What say ye to this deed?" said Sir Gawaine. "He is a man of great might, for that one spear hath felled us 4. I dare lay my head it is Sir Launcelot, I know it by his riding." End of chapter 11. Of Stories of King Arthur and His Knights. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Stories of King Arthur and His Knights by U. Waldo Cutler. Chapter 12. How Sir Launcelot came into the Chapel Perilous. On a day as Sir Launcelot rode a great while in a deep forest, he was ware of an old manor beyond a bridge, and he passed over the bridge that was old and feeble, and came into a great hall, where he saw lie a dead knight, that was a seemly man. And therewithal came out a lady weeping and wringing her hands, and she said, "O knight, too much sorrow hast thou brought me." "Why say ye so?" said Sir Launcelot. "I did never this knight any harm. Therefore, fair lady, be not displeased with me, for I am full sore grieved at your grievance." "Truly, sir," she said, "I know it is not ye that have slain my husband, for he that did the deed is sore wounded, and he is never likely to recover, that I assure you." "What was your husband's name?" asked Sir Launcelot. "Sir," said she, "his name was Sir Gilbert, one of the best knights of the world, and he that hath slain him, I know not his name." "God send you better comfort," said Sir Launcelot. And so he departed, and went into the forest again. And there he met with a damsel who knew him well, and said aloud, Well are ye come, my lord. And now I require thee on thy knighthood help my brother that is sore wounded, and never ceaseth bleeding. For this day fought he with Sir Gilbert, and slew him in plain battle. My brother was sore wounded, and a sorceress that dwelleth in a castle hard by told me this day that my brother's wounds should never be whole till I could find a knight that would go into the Chapel Perilous, where he should find a sword and a bloody cloth that the wounded knight was wrapped in. A piece of that cloth and the sword should heal my brother's wounds, if his wounds were searched with the sword and the cloth. "This is a marvellous thing," said Sir Launcelot, "but what is your brother's name?" "Sir," said she, "his name is Sir Meliot." "That me repenteth," said Sir Launcelot, "for he is a fellow of the Table Round, and to help him I will do all in my power." "Then, sir," said she, "follow this highway, and it will bring you into the Chapel Perilous, and here I shall wait till God send you again. Except you, I know no knight living that may achieve that adventure." So Launcelot departed, and when he came unto the Chapel Perilous, he alighted and tied his horse to the little gate of the churchyard. And soon he saw in the front of the chapel many fair rich shields turned up so down, and many of these shields he had seen borne by knights that he had known aforetime. Then he saw standing there by him 30 great knights, taller by a yard than any man that ever he had seen, all clad in black armour, ready with their shields and their swords drawn. They all grinned and gnashed at Sir Launcelot, and when he saw their countenances, he put his shield afore him, and took his sword in his hand, ready unto battle. He started to go right past the giants, and then they scattered on every side and gave him the way. Therewith he waxed all bold and entered into the chapel, where he saw no light but a dim lamp burning, and soon became aware of a corpse covered with a cloth of silk. Sir Launcelot stooped down and cut off a piece of that cloth, whereupon the earth under him seemed to quake a little, and at this he feared. Then he saw a fair sword lying by the dead knight. This he gat into his hand, and hied out of the chapel. As soon as ever he was in the chapel yard, all the giants spake to him with a grimly voice, and said, "Knight, Sir Launcelot, lay that sword from thee, or else thou shalt die." "Whether I live or die," said Sir Launcelot, "no loud words will get it again. Therefore fight for it if ye will." Then he immediately passed right through their midst, and beyond the chapel yard there met him a fair damsel, who said, "Sir Launcelot, leave that sword behind thee, or thou wilt die for it." "I leave it not," said Sir Launcelot, "for any entreaties." "It is well," said she; "if thou didst leave that sword thou shouldst never see Queen Guenever again. Now, gentle knight, I request one thing of thee. Kiss me but once." "Nay," said Sir Launcelot, "God forbid that I should do that." "It is well, sir," said she; "if thou hadst kissed me thy life days had been done. But now, alas, I have lost all my labour, for I ordained this chapel to win thee. Once I had Sir Gawaine well nigh within my power, but he fought with that knight that lieth there dead in yonder chapel, Sir Gilbert, and smote off his left hand, and so escaped. Sir Launcelot, I have loved thee these 7 years, but now I know no woman may have thy love but Queen Guenever." "Ye say well," said Sir Launcelot; "God preserve me from your subtle crafts." Thereupon he took his horse, and so departed from her, and soon met the damsel, Sir Meliot's sister. Anon she led him to the castle where Sir Meliot lay, pale as the earth from bleeding. Sir Launcelot leapt unto him, and touched his wounds with Sir Gilbert's sword, and then wiped his wounds with a part of the cloth that Sir Gilbert was wrapped in, and anon he was as whole a man as ever he had been in all his life. And then there was great joy between them. They made Sir Launcelot all the cheer that they might, and on the morn he took his leave of Sir Meliot and his sister, and rode away. End of chapter 12. Chapter 13 of Stories of King Arthur and His Knights. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Stories of King Arthur and His Knights by U. Waldo Cutler. Chapter 13. The Knight, the Lady, and the Falcon. And Sir Launcelot by fortune came to a fair castle, and as he passed by, he was ware of a falcon that came flying over his head toward a high elm. As the bird flew into the tree to take her perch, the long lines about her feet caught on a bow, and when she would take flight again, she hung fast by the legs. Sir Launcelot saw how the fair falcon hung there, and he was sorry for her. Meanwhile came a lady out of the castle, and cried aloud, "O Launcelot, Launcelot, as thou art the flower of all knights, help me to get my hawk. I was holding my hawk, and she slips from me, and if my lord my husband knows that she is lost, he will slay me." "What is your lord's name?" said Sir Launcelot. "Sir," said the lady, "his name is Sir Phelot, a knight of Northgalis." "Well, fair lady," said Launcelot, "since ye know my name, and request me as a courteous knight to help you, I will do what I may to get your hawk. And yet truly I am an ill climber, and the tree is passing high, with few boughs to cling to." Thereupon Sir Launcelot alighted, and tied his horse to the elm. Then the lady helped him to unarm, and with might and force he climbed up to the falcon. He tied the lines to a great rotten branch, brake it off, and threw it and the hawk down. Anon the lady gat the hawk in her hand, and thereupon came Sir Phelot suddenly out of the grove, all armed and with his naked sword in his hand. He called up to Sir Launcelot and said, "O knight, now have I found thee as I would," and he stood at the foot of the tree to slay him. "Ah, lady," said Sir Launcelot, "why have ye betrayed me?" "She hath done," said Sir Phelot, "but as I commanded her. There is no help for it, thine hour is come, and thou must die." "It were shame unto thee," said Sir Launcelot, "for thee, an armed knight, to slay an unarmed man by treason." "Thou gettest no other grace," said Sir Phelot, "therefore help thyself if thou canst." "Alas," said Sir Launcelot, "that ever knight should die weaponless." Then he looked above and below him, and saw a big leafless bough. This he brake off. Then he climbed down with it in his hand, and, observing how his horse stood, he suddenly leapt down to the ground on the farther side of the horse from the knight. Then Sir Phelot lashed at him eagerly, thinking to slay him. But Sir Launcelot put away the stroke with the branch, and then with it gave Sir Phelot such a blow on one side of the head that he fell down in a swoon to the ground. Then Sir Launcelot took his sword out of his hand and struck his head from his body. "Alas," cried the lady, "why hast thou slain my husband?" "I am not the cause," said Sir Launcelot, "for with falsehood ye would have slain me by treason, and now it is fallen on you both." Thereupon Sir Launcelot gat all his armour as well as he might, and put it on for fear of further attack, since the knight's castle was so near. As soon as he might he took his horse, and, thanking God that he had escaped that adventure, he went on his adventures over many wild ways, through marsh and valley and forest. At Pentecost he returned home, and the king and all the court were passing glad of his coming. And ever now and now came all the knights back, those that had encountered with Sir Launcelot, those he had set free from prison, and all those that knew of his great deeds of arms. And they all bare record of Sir Launcelot's prowess, so at that time he had the greatest name of any knight of the world, and most he was honoured of high and low. End of chapter 13. Of Stories of King Arthur and His Knights by U. Waldo Cutler. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Stories of King Arthur and His Knights by U. Waldo Cutler. Chapter 14. How a Kitchen Page Came to Honour. Arthur was holding the high feast of Pentecost at a city and castle called in those days Kink Kenedon, upon the sands nigh Wales, and he sat at meat with all the knights of the Round Table. Then came into the hall two men well beseen and richly, and upon their shoulders there leaned the goodliest young man and the fairest that ever any of the knights had seen. He was higher than the other two by 1.5 foot, broad in the shoulders, well visaged, and the fairest and largest handed that ever man saw. But he acted as though he might not walk nor support himself unless he leaned upon their shoulders. They went with him right into the high dais without saying of any words. Then this much young man pulled himself away, and easily stretched up straight, saying, "King Arthur, God you bless, and all your fair fellowship of the Round Table. For this cause I am come hither, to pray you to give me 3 gifts. They shall not be so unreasonable, but that ye may honourably grant them me, and to you no great hurt nor loss. The first I will ask now, and the other 2 gifts I will ask this day 12 month wheresoever ye hold your high feast." "Now ask," said Arthur, "and ye shall have your asking." "Now, sir, this is my petition for this feast, that you will give me meat and drink sufficiently for this 12 month, and at that day I will ask mine other 2 gifts." "This is but a simple asking," said the King. "Ye shall have meat and drink enough. I never refuse that to any, neither my friend nor my foe. But what is your name, I would know?" "I cannot tell you," said he. The King marvelled at this answer, but took him to Sir Kay the steward, and charged him that he should give the youth of all manner of meats and drinks of the best, and also that he should have all manner of finding as though he were a lord's son. "That need not be," said Sir Kay, "to do such cost upon him; for I dare undertake he is a villain born, and never will make a man, for had he come of gentlemen, he would have asked of you horse and armour; but such as he is, so he asketh. And since he hath no name, I shall give him the name Beaumains, that is, Fair hands, and into the kitchen I shall bring him, and there he shall have rich broth every day, so that he shall be as fat by the 12 month's end as a pork hog." So the 2 men departed, and left him to Sir Kay, who scorned him and mocked him. Thereat was Sir Gawaine wroth, and especially Sir Launcelot bade Sir Kay leave off his mocking. "For," said he, "I dare wager he shall prove a man of great honour." "It may not be by any reason," said Sir Kay, "for as he is, so hath he asked." So Sir Kay ordered that a place be made for him, and Fair hands went to the hall door, and sat down among boys and lads, and there he ate sadly. After meat Sir Launcelot bade him come to his chamber, where he should have meat and drink enough, and so did Sir Gawaine; but he refused them all; he would do none other but as Sir Kay commanded him. As touching Sir Gawaine, he had reason to proffer him lodging, meat, and drink, for he was nearer kin to him than he knew. But what Sir Launcelot did was of his great gentleness and courtesy. Thus Fair hands was put into the kitchen, and lay nightly as the boys of the kitchen did. And so he endured all that 12 month, and never displeased man nor child, but always he was meek and mild. But ever when there was any jousting of knights, that would he see if he could. And where were any masteries done, thereat would he be, and there might none cast bar nor stone to him by 2 yards. Then would Sir Kay say, "How like you my boy of the kitchen?" So it passed on till the least of Whitsuntide, which at that time the King held at Carlion in the most royal wise that might be, as he did every year. As he again sat at meat, there came a damsel into the hall and saluted the King, and prayed him for succour. "For whom?" said the King. "What is the adventure?" "Sir," she said, "I have a lady of great honour and renown, and she is besieged by a tyrant, so that she may not out of her castle. And because your knights are called the noblest of the world, I come to you to pray you for succour." "What is the name of your lady, and where dwelleth she, and who is he, and what is his name that hath besieged her?" "Sir King," she said, "as for my lady's name, that shall not ye know from me at this time, but I let you know she is a lady of great honour and of great lands. and as for the tyrant that besiegeth and destroyeth her lands, he is called the Red Knight of the Red Lawns." "I know him not," said the king. "Sir," said Sir Gawaine, "I know him well, for he is one of the most dangerous knights of the world. Men say that he hath 7 men's strength, and from him I escaped once full hard with my life." "Fair damsel," said the king, "there be knights here would do their best to rescue your lady, but because ye will not tell her name nor where she dwelleth, therefore none of my knights that be here now shall go with you by my will." "Then must I speak further," said the damsel. With these words Fair hands came before the king while the damsel was there, and thus he said: "Sir King, God reward you. I have been these 12 months in your kitchen, and have had my full sustenance, and now I will ask my 2 gifts that be behind." "Ask upon my peril," said the king. "Sir, these shall be my 2 gifts. First, that ye will grant me this adventure of the damsel, and second, that ye shall bid Launcelot of the Lake to make me knight, for of him I will be made knight, and else of none. I pray you let him ride after me, and make me knight when I request him." "All this shall be done," said the king. "Fie on thee," said the damsel, "shall I have none but one that is your kitchen page?" Then she was wroth, and took her horse and departed. Thereupon there came one to Fair hands, and told him that his horse and armour was come for him, with all things that he needeth in the richest manner. Thereat all the court had much marvel from whence came all that gear. When he was armed and came into the hall to take leave of King Arthur and Sir Gawaine and Sir Launcelot, there were but few so goodly knights as he was. He prayed Sir Launcelot that he would hie after him, and so departed and rode after the damsel. Many people followed after Fair hands, to behold how well he was horsed and trapped in cloth of gold, but he had neither shield nor spear. Then Sir Kay said all openly in the hall: "I will ride after my boy of the kitchen, to see whether he will know me for his better." Sir Launcelot and Sir Gawaine counselled him to abide at home. Nevertheless he made ready, and took his horse and his spear, and rode off. Just as Fair hands overtook the damsel, Sir Kay came up and said: "Fair hands, what, sir? Know ye not me?" Then he turned his horse, and knew it was Sir Kay, that had done him all the despite, as we have heard afore. "Yea," said Fair hands, "I know you for an ungentle knight of the court, and therefore beware of me." Therewith Sir Kay put his spear in its rest, and ran straight upon him, and Fair hands came on just as fast with his sword in his hand. And so he put away his spear with his sword, and with a foin thrust him through the side, so that Sir Kay fell down as if he were dead. Then Fair hands alighted down and took Sir Kay's shield and his spear, had his dwarf mount upon Sir Kay's horse, and started upon his own horse and rode his way. All this Sir Launcelot saw, and so did the damsel. By this time Sir Launcelot had come up, and Fair hands offered to joust with him. So they rushed together like boars, and for upwards of an hour they had a hard fight, wherein Sir Launcelot had so much ado with Fair hands that he feared himself to be shamed. At length he said: "Fair hands, fight not so sore. Your quarrel and mine is not so great but we may leave off." "That is truth," said Fair hands, "but it doth me good to feel your might. And yet, my lord, I showed not my uttermost." "Well," said Sir Launcelot, "I promise you I had as much to do as I might to save myself from you unashamed. Therefore ye need have no fear of any earthly knight." "Hope ye, then," said Fair hands, "that I may anywhere stand as a proved knight?" "Yea," said Launcelot, "do as ye have done, and I shall be your warrant." "Then I pray you give me the order of knighthood," said Fair hands. "Then must ye tell me your name," said Launcelot, "and of what kin ye be born." "Sir, if ye will not make me known, I will," said Fair hands. "That I promise you by the faith of my body, until it be openly known," said Sir Launcelot. "Then, sir," he said, "my name is Gareth. I am own brother unto Sir Gawaine." "Ah, sir," said Launcelot, I am more glad of you than I was, for ever methought ye should be of great blood, and that ye came not to the court either for meat or for drink. Then Sir Launcelot gave him the order of knighthood, and Sir Gareth went his way. Sir Launcelot now came to Sir Kay, and had him carried home upon his shield. He was with difficulty healed of his wounds, and all men scorned him. In especial Sir Gawaine and Sir Launcelot said it was not for Sir Kay to rebuke the young man, for full little he knew of what birth he was, and for what cause he came to this court. End of chapter 14. Of Stories of King Arthur and his Knights. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Stories of King Arthur and his Knights by U. Waldo Cutler. Chapter 15. How Sir Gareth fought for the Lady of Castle Perilous. After the damsel rode Fair hands, now well provided with shield and spear, and known to Sir Launcelot at least, as Sir Gareth, and nephew to King Arthur. When he had overtaken the damsel, anon she said, "What dost thou here? Thou smellest all of the kitchen, thy clothes be foul with the grease and tallow that thou gainest in King Arthur's kitchen. Therefore turn again, foul kitchen page. I know thee well, for Sir Kay named thee Fair hands. What art thou but a lubber, and a turner of spits, and a ladle washer?" "Damsel," said Fair hands, "say to me what ye will, I will not go from you, for I have undertaken, in King Arthur's presence, to achieve your adventure, and so shall I finish it, or I shall die therefore." Thus as they rode along in the wood, there came a man flying all that ever he might. "Whither wilt thou?" said Fair hands. "O Lord," he said, "help me, for yonder in a dell are 6 thieves that have taken my lord and bound him, and I am afeard lest they will slay him." So Fair hands rode with the man until they came to where the knight lay bound, and the thieves hard by. Fair hands struck one unto the death, and then another, and at the 3rd stroke he slew the 3rd thief, and then the other 3 fled. He rode after them and overtook them, and then those 3 thieves turned again and assailed Fair hands hard, but at the last he slew them also, and returned and unbound the knight. The knight thanked him, and prayed him to ride with him to his castle there a little beside, and he should honourably reward him for his good deeds. "Sir," said Fair hands, "I will no reward have except as God reward me, and also I must follow this damsel." When he came nigh her, she bade him ride from her. "For," said she, "thou smellest all of the kitchen. Thinkest thou that I have joy of thee? All this deed thou hast done is but mishapped thee, but thou shalt see a sight that shall make thee turn again, and that lightly." Then the same knight who was rescued from the thieves rode after that damsel, and prayed her to lodge with him that night. And because it was near night, the damsel rode with him to the castle, and there they had great cheer. At supper the knight set Sir Fair hands afore the damsel. "Fie, fie," said she, "Sir Knight, ye are uncourteous to set a kitchen page afore me. Him beseemeth better to stick a swine than to sit afore a damsel of high parentage." Then the knight was ashamed at her words, and took Fair hands up and set him at a sideboard, and seated himself afore him. So all that night they had good cheer and merry rest. On the morn the damsel and Fair hands thanked the knight and took their leave, and rode on their way until they came to a great forest. Therein was a great river with but one passage, and there were ready 2 knights on the farther side, to prevent their crossing. Fair hands would not have turned back had there been 6 more, and he rushed into the water. One of the 2 encountered with him in the midst of the stream, and both spears were broken. Then they drew their swords and smote eagerly at one another. At the last Sir Fair hands smote the other upon the helm, so that he fell down stunned in the water, and there was he drowned. Then Sir Fair hands spurred his horse upon the land, where the other fell upon him, and they fought long together. At the last Sir Fair hands clove his helm and his head, and so rode unto the damsel, and bade her ride forth on her way. "Alas," she said, that ever a kitchen page should have that fortune to destroy two such doughty knights! Thou thinkest thou hast done doughtily, but that is not so, for the first knight's horse stumbled, and so he was drowned in the water. It was never by thy force or by thy might. And as for the second knight, by mishap thou camest behind him, and slewest him." "Damsel," said Fair hands, "ye may say what ye will, but whomsoever I have ado with, I trust to God to serve him ere he depart, and therefore I reck not what ye say, provided I may win your lady." "Fie, fie, foul kitchen knave, thou shalt see knights that shall abate thy boast. I see all that ever thou doest is but by misadventure, and not by the prowess of thy hands." "Fair damsel," said he, "give me goodly language, and then my care is past. Ye may say what ye will; what knights soever I shall meet I fear them not, and wheresoever ye go I will follow you." So they rode on till evensong time, and ever she chid him and would not cease. And when they came to a black lawn, and there was a black hawthorn, and thereon hung a black banner, and on the other side there hung a black shield, and by it stood a black spear great and long, and a great black horse covered with silk, and a black stone fast by, whereon sat a knight all armed in black harness, and his name was the Knight of the Black Lawns. The damsel, when she saw this knight, bade Fair hands flee down the valley. "Gramercy," said he, "always ye would have me a coward." With that the Black Knight, when she came nigh him, spake and said: "Damsel, have ye brought this knight of King Arthur to be your champion?" "Nay, fair knight," said she, "this is but a kitchen knave, that was fed in King Arthur's kitchen for alms. I cannot be rid of him, for with him he rideth against my will. Would that ye should put him from me, or else slay him if ye may, for he is a troublesome knave, and evilly he hath done this day." "Thus much shall I grant you," said the Black Knight, "I shall put him down upon one foot, and his horse and his harness he shall leave with me, for it were shame to me to do him any more harm." When Sir Fair hands heard him say thus, he said: "Sir Knight, thou art full generous with my horse and my harness. I let thee know it cost thee naught, and whether thou like it or not, this lawn will I pass, and neither horse nor harness gettest thou of me, except as thou win them with thy hands. I am no kitchen page, as the damsel saith I am. I am a gentleman born, and of more high lineage than thou, and that will I prove on thy body." Then in great wrath they drew back with their horses, and rushed together as it had been the thunder. The Black Knight's spear brake, and Fair hands thrust him through both his sides, whereupon his own spear brake also. Nevertheless the Black Knight drew his sword and smote many eager strokes of great might, and hurt Fair hands full sore. But at the last he fell down off his horse in a swoon, and there he died. When Fair hands saw that the Black Knight had been so well horsed and armed, he alighted down and armed himself in the dead man's armour, took his horse, and rode after the damsel. When she saw him come nigh, she said: "Away, kitchen knave, out of the wind, for the smell of thy foul clothes offendeth me. Alas, that ever such a knave as thou art should by mishap slay so good a knight as thou hast done. All this is my ill luck, but hard by is one that shall requite thee, and therefore again I counsel thee, flee." "It may be my lot," said Fair hands, "to be beaten or slain. But I warn you, fair damsel, I will not flee away or leave your company for all that ye can say. For ever ye say that they will kill me or beat me, yet it happeneth that I escape and they lie on the ground. Therefore it were as good for you to stop thus all day rebuking me, for away will I not till I see the uttermost of this journey, or else I will be slain and truly beaten. Therefore ride on your way, for follow you I will, whatsoever happen." As they rode along together they saw a knight come driving by them all in green, both his horse and his harness. And when he came nigh the damsel he asked her: "Is that my brother the Black Knight that ye have brought with you?" "Nay, nay," said she, "this unlucky kitchen knave hath slain your brother through mischance." "Alas," said the Green Knight, "that is a great pity, that so noble a knight as he was should so unfortunately be slain, and by a knave's hand, as ye say that he is. Ah, traitor, thou shalt die for slaying my brother; he was a full noble knight." "I defy thee," said Fair hands, "for I make known to thee I slew him knightly and not shamefully." Therewithal the Green Knight rode unto a horn that was green that hung on a green thorn, and there he blew 3 deadly notes, whereupon came 2 damsels and armed him lightly. Then he took a great horse and a green shield and a green spear, and the 2 knights ran together with all their mights. They brake their spears unto their hands, and then drew their swords. Now they gave many sad strokes, and either of them wounded other full ill. At the last Fair hands' horse struck the Green Knight's horse upon the side, and it fell to the earth. Then the Green Knight left his horse lightly, and prepared to fight on foot. That saw Fair hands, and therewithal he alighted, and they rushed together like 2 mighty champions a long while, and sore they bled both. With that came the damsel and said, "My lord the Green Knight, why for shame stand ye so long fighting with the kitchen knave? Alas, it is shame that ever ye were made knight, to see such a lad match such a knight, as if the weed overgrew the corn." Therewith the Green Knight was ashamed, and gave a great stroke of might, and clave Fair hands' shield through. When the young knight saw his shield cloven asunder, he was a little ashamed of that stroke and of her language, and then he gave the other such a buffet upon the helm that he fell on his knees, and Fair hands quickly pulled him upon the ground grovelling. Then the Green Knight cried for mercy, and yielded himself unto Sir Fair hands, and prayed him to slay him not. "All is in vain," said Fair hands, "for thou shalt die, unless this damsel that came with me pray to save thy life." Therewithal he unlaced his helm as if to slay him. "Let be," said the damsel, "thou foul kitchen knave, slay him not, for if thou do thou shalt repent it." "Damsel," said Fair hands, "your charge is to me a pleasure, and at your commandment his life shall be saved, and else not. Sir Knight with the green arms, I release thee quit at this damsel's request, for I will not make her wroth; I will fulfil all that she chargeth me." And then the Green Knight kneeled down and did him homage with his sword, promising for ever to become his man together with 30 knights that held of him. Then said the damsel, "Me repenteth, Green Knight, of your damage and of the death of your brother the Black Knight. Of your help I had great need, for I fear me sore to pass this forest." "Nay, fear ye not," said the Green Knight, "for ye shall lodge with me this night, and to morn I shall help you through this forest." So they took their horses and rode to his manor, which was fast there beside. And ever the damsel rebuked Fair hands, and would not suffer him to sit at her table. But the Green Knight took him and set him at a side table, and did him honour, for he saw that he was come of noble blood, and had proved himself a full noble knight. All that night he commanded 30 men privily to watch Fair hands, for to keep him from all treason. And on the morn they arose, and after breaking their fast they took their horses and rode on their way. As the Green Knight conveyed them through the forest, he said, "My lord Fair hands, I and these 30 knights shall be always at your summons, both early and late at your call, wherever ye will send us." "It is well," said Fair hands, "when I call upon you, ye must go unto King Arthur with all your knights." So the Green Knight took his leave, and the damsel said unto Fair hands, "Why followest thou me, thou kitchen boy? Cast away thy shield and thy spear, and flee, for thou shalt not pass a pass here, that is called the Pass Perilous." "Damsel," said Fair hands, "who is afraid, let him flee, for it were shame to turn again, since I have ridden so long with you." "Well," said she, "ye shall soon, whether ye will or not." In like manner on the next day Sir Fair hands overcame a third brother, the Red Knight, and in like manner the damsel would have Fair hands spare his life, albeit she spake unto him many contemptuous words, whereof the Red Knight had great marvel, and all that night made 80 men to watch Fair hands, that he should have no shame or villainy. The Red Knight yielded himself to Fair hands with 50 knights, and they all proffered him homage and fealty at all times to do him service. "I thank you," said Fair hands, "this ye shall grant me when I call upon you, to come afore my lord King Arthur and yield yourselves unto him to be his knights." "Sir," said the Red Knight, "I will be ready, and my fellowship at your summons." So again upon the morn Sir Fair hands and the damsel departed, and ever she rode chiding him in the foulest manner. "Damsel," said Fair hands, "ye are uncourteous so to rebuke me as ye do, for meseemeth I have done you good service, and ever ye threaten me I shall be beaten with knights that we meet, but ever for all your boasts they lie in the dust or in the mire, and therefore I pray you rebuke me no more. When ye see me beaten or yielded as recreant, then may ye bid me go from you shamefully, but first I let you wit I will not depart from you, for I were worse than a fool if I should depart from you all the while that I win honour." "Well," said she, "right soon there shall come a knight that shall pay thee all thy wages, for he is the most man of honour of the world except King Arthur." "The more he is of honour," said Fair hands, "the more shall be my honour to have ado with him. Have no doubt, damsel, by the grace of God I shall so deal with this knight that within 2 hours after noon I shall overcome him, and then shall we come to the siege of your lady's castle 7 miles hence by daylight." "Marvel have I," said the damsel, "what manner of man ye be, for it may never be otherwise that ye be come of noble blood, for so foul and shamefully did never a woman rule a knight as I have done you, and ever courteously ye have suffered me, and that came never but of gentle blood." "Damsel," said Fair hands, "a knight may little do that may not suffer a damsel. For whatsoever ye said unto me I took no heed to your words, for the more ye said the more ye angered me, and my wrath I wreaked upon them that I had ado withal. And therefore all the missaying that ye missaid me furthered me in my battle, and caused me to think to show and prove myself at the end what I was. For peradventure, though I had meat in King Arthur's kitchen, yet I might have had meat enough in other places. All that I did to prove and to assay my friends, and whether I be a gentleman born or not, I let you wit, fair damsel, I have done you gentleman service, and peradventure better service yet will I do ere I depart from you." "Alas," she said, "good Fair hands, forgive me all that I have missaid or done against thee." "With all my heart," said he, "I forgive it you, and damsel, since it liketh you to say thus fair to me, wit ye well it gladdeth mine heart greatly, and now meseemeth there is no knight living but I am able enough for him." With this Sir Persant of Inde, the fourth of the brethren that stood in Fair hands' way to the siege, espied them as they came upon the fair meadow where his pavilion was. Sir Persant was the most lordly knight that ever thou lookest on. His pavilion and all manner of thing that there is about, men and women and horses' trappings, shields and spears, were all of a dark blue colour. Anon he and Fair hands prepared themselves and rode against one another, that both their spears were shattered to pieces, and their horses fell dead to the earth. Then they fought 2 hours and more on foot, until their armour was all hewn to pieces, and in many places they were wounded. At the last, though loath to do it, Fair hands smote Sir Persant above upon the helm, so that he fell grovelling to the earth, and the fierce battle was at an end. Like his 3 brethren before, Sir Persant yielded himself and asked for mercy, and at the damsel's request Fair hands gladly granted his life, and received homage and fealty from him and 100 knights, to be always at his commandment. On the morn as the damsel and Sir Fair hands departed from Sir Persant's pavilion, "Fair damsel," said Persant, "whitherward are ye away leading this knight?" "Sir," she said, "this knight is going to the siege that besiegeth my sister in the Castle Perilous." "Ah, ah," said Persant, "that is the Knight of the Red Lawns, the most perilous knight that I know now living, a man that is without mercy, and men say that he hath 7 men's strength. God save you, sir, from that knight, for he doth great wrong to that lady, which is great pity, for she is one of the fairest ladies of the world, and meseemeth that this damsel is her sister. Is not your name Lynette?" "Yea, sir," said she, "and my lady my sister's name is Dame Liones. Now, my lord Sir Persant of Inde, I request you that ye make this gentleman knight or ever he fight with the Red Knight." "I will with all my heart," said Sir Persant, "if it please him to take the order of knighthood of so simple a man as I am." But Fair hands thanked him for his good will, and told him he was better sped, as the noble Sir Launcelot had already made him knight. Then, after Persant and the damsel had promised to keep it close, he told them his real name was Gareth of Orkney, King Arthur's nephew, and that Sir Gawaine and Sir Agravaine and Sir Gaheris were all his brethren, he being the youngest of them all. "And yet," said he, "wot not King Arthur nor Sir Gawaine what I am." The book saith that the lady that was besieged had word of her sister's coming and a knight with her, and how he had passed all the perilous passages, had won all the four brethren, and had slain the Black Knight, and how he overthrew Sir Kay, and did great battle with Sir Launcelot, and was made knight by him. She was glad of these tidings, and sent them wine and dainty foods, and bade Sir Fair hands be of good heart and good courage. The next day Fair hands and Lynette took their horses again and rode through a fair forest, and came to a spot where they saw across the plain many pavilions and a fair castle and much smoke. And when they came near the siege, Sir Fair hands espied upon great trees, as he rode, how there hung goodly armed knights by the necks, nigh 40 of them, their shields about their necks with their swords. These were the knights that had come to the siege to rescue Dame Liones, and had been overcome and put to this shameful death by the Red Knight of the Red Lawns. Then they rode to the dikes, and saw how strong were the defences, and many great lords nigh the walls, and the sea upon the one side of the walls, where were many ships and mariners' noise, with hail and ho! Fast by there was a sycamore tree, whereupon hung a horn, the greatest that ever they saw, an elephant's bone. This the Knight of the Red Lawns had hung up there, that any errant knight might blow it, if he wished the Knight of the Red Lawns to come to him to do battle. The damsel Lynette besought Fair hands not to blow the horn till high noon, for the Red Knight's might grew greater all through the morn, till, as men said, he had 7 men's strength. "Ah, fie for shame, fair damsel," said Fair hands, "say ye never so more to me, for were he as good a knight as ever was, I shall never fail him in his most might, for either I will win honour honourably, or die knightly in the field." Therewith he spurred his horse straight to the sycamore tree, and blew the horn so eagerly that all the siege and all the castle rang thereof. And then there leapt out knights out of their tents, and they within the castle looked over the walls and out at windows. Then the Red Knight of the Red Lawns armed himself hastily, and 2 barons set his spurs upon his heels, and all was blood red, his armour, spear, and shield. And an earl buckled his helm upon his head, and then they brought him a red shield, and so he rode into a little vale under the castle, that all that were in the castle and at the siege might behold the battle. Sir Fair hands looked up at a window of the castle, and there he saw the Lady Liones, the fairest lady, it seemed to him, that ever he looked upon. She made courtesy down to him, and ever he looked up to the window with glad countenance, and loved her from that time, and vowed to rescue her or else to die. "Leave, Sir Knight, thy looking," said the Red Knight, "and behold me, I counsel thee, and make thee ready." Then they both put their spears in their rests, and came together with all the might that they had. Either smote other in the midst of the shield with such force that the breastplates, horse girths, and cruppers brake, and both fell to the earth stunned, and lay so long that all they that were in the castle and in the siege thought their necks had been broken. But at length they put their shields afore them, drew their swords, and ran together like 2 fierce lions. Either gave other such buffets upon the helm that they reeled backward. Then they recovered both, and hewed off great pieces of their harness and their shields. Thus they fought till it was past noon, and never would stint, till at last they lacked wind both, and stood panting and blowing a while. Then they went to battle again, and thus they endured till evensong time, and none that beheld them might know whether was like to win. Then by assent of them both they granted either other to rest. And so they sat down on 2 molehills, and unlaced their helms to take the cool wind. Then Sir Fair hands looked up at the window, and there he saw the fair lady, Dame Liones. She made him such countenance that his heart waxed light and jolly. and therewith he bade the Red Knight of the Red Lawns make ready to do battle to the uttermost. So they laced up their helms and fought freshly. By a cross stroke the Red Knight of the Red Lawns smote Sir Fair hands' sword from him, and then gave him another buffet on the helm, so that he fell grovelling to the earth, and the Red Knight fell upon him to hold him down. Then Lynette cried to him aloud, and said that the lady beheld and wept. When Sir Fair hands heard her say so, he started up with great might, gat upon his feet, and leapt to his sword. He gripped it in his hand, doubled his pace unto the Red Knight, and there they fought a new battle together. Now Sir Fair hands doubled his strokes, and smote so thick that soon he had the better of the Red Knight of the Red Lawns, and unlaced his helm to slay him, whereupon he yielded himself to Fair hands' mercy. Sir Fair hands bethought him upon the knights that he had made to be hanged shamefully, and said, "I may not with my honour save thy life." Then came there many earls and barons and noble knights, and prayed Fair hands to save his life and take him as prisoner. Then he released him upon this covenant, that he go within to the castle, and yield himself there to the lady, and if she would forgive him, he might have his life without making amends to the lady of all the trespass he had done against her and her lands. The Red Knight of the Red Lawns promised to do as Sir Fair hands commanded, and so with all those earls and barons he made his homage and fealty to him. Within a while he went unto the castle, where he made peace with the Lady Liones, and departed unto the court of King Arthur. There he told openly how he was overcome and by whom, and also he told all the battles of Fair hands from the beginning unto the ending. "Mercy," said King Arthur and Sir Gawaine, "we marvel much of what blood he is come, for he is a noble knight." But Sir Launcelot had no marvel, for he knew whence he came, yet because of his promise he would not discover Fair hands until he permitted it, or else it were known openly by some other. Dame Liones soon learned through her brother Sir Gringamore that the knight who had wrought her deliverance was a king's son, Sir Gareth of Orkney, and nephew of King Arthur himself. And she made him passing good cheer, and he and her again, and they had goodly language and lovely countenance together. And she promised the noble knight Sir Gareth certainly to love him and none other the days of her life. Then there was not a gladder man than he, for ever since he saw her at the window of Castle Perilous, he had so burned in love for her that he was nigh past himself in his reason. End of chapter 15. Of Stories of King Arthur and His Knights. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Stories of King Arthur and His Knights by U. Waldo Cutler. Chapter 16. How Sir Gareth returned to the court of King Arthur. Now leave we Sir Gareth there with Sir Gringamore and his sisters, Liones and Lynette, and turn we unto King Arthur, that held the next feast of Pentecost at Carlion. And there came the Green Knight with his 50 knights, and they yielded themselves all unto King Arthur. And so there came the Red Knight his brother, and yielded himself and 60 knights with him. Also there came the Blue Knight brother to them, and his 100 knights, and yielded themselves. These 3 brethren told King Arthur how they were overcome by a knight that a damsel had with her, and called him Fair hands. Also they told how the 4th brother, the Black Knight, was slain in an encounter with Sir Fair hands, and of the adventure with the 2 brethren that kept the passage of the water. And evermore King Arthur marvelled who the knight might be that was in his kitchen a 12-month, and that Sir Kay in scorn named Fair hands. Right as the king stood so talking with these 3 brethren, there came Sir Launcelot of the Lake, and told him that there was come a goodly lord with 600 knights. The king went out, and there came to him and saluted him in a goodly manner the Red Knight of the Red Lawns, and he said, "I am sent to you by a knight that is called Fair hands, for he won me in plain battle, hand for hand. No knight has ever had the better of me before. I and my knights yield ourselves to your will, as he commanded, to do you such service as may be in our power. King Arthur received him courteously, as he had before received the three brethren, and he promised to do them honour for the love of Sir Fair hands. Then the king and they went to meat, and were served in the best manner. And as they sat at the table, there came in the Queen of Orkney, with ladies and knights a great number. And her sons, Sir Gawaine, Sir Agravaine, and Gaheris arose and went to her, and saluted her upon their knees, and asked her blessing, for in 15 years they had not seen her. Then she spake on high to her brother King Arthur, Where have ye done my young son Sir Gareth? He was here amongst you a twelvemonth, and ye made a kitchen knave of him, which is shame to you all. "O dear mother," said Sir Gawaine, "I knew him not." "Nor I," said the king, "but thanked be God he is proved an honourable knight as any of his years now living, and I shall never be glad till I may find him. Sister, meseemeth ye might have done me to know of his coming, and then, had I not done well to him, ye might have blamed me. For when he came to this court, he came leaning upon 2 men's shoulders, as though he might not walk. And then he asked of me 3 gifts, one the same day, that was that I would give him meat for that twelvemonth. The other 2 gifts he asked that day a twelvemonth, and those were that he might have the adventure of the damsel Lynette, and that Sir Launcelot should make him knight when he desired him. I granted him all his desire, and many in this court marvelled that he desired his sustenance for a twelvemonth, and thereby deemed many of us that he was not come of a noble house. "Sir," said the Queen of Orkney unto King Arthur her brother, "I sent him unto you right well armed and horsed, and gold and silver plenty to spend." "It may be," said the king, "but thereof saw we none, save that same day as he departed from us, knights told me that there came a dwarf hither suddenly, and brought him armour and a good horse, full well and richly beseen, and thereat had all marvel from whence that riches came. Then we deemed all that he was come of men of honour." "Brother," said the queen, "all that ye say I believe, for ever since he was grown he was marvellously witted, and ever he was faithful and true to his promise. But I marvel that Sir Kay did mock him and scorn him, and give him the name Fair hands. Yet Sir Kay named him more justly than he knew, for I dare say, if he be alive, he is a fair-handed a man, and as well disposed as any living." "Sister," said Arthur, "by the grace of God he shall be found if he be within these 7 realms. Meanwhile let us be merry, for he is proved to be a man of honour, and that is my joy." So then goodly letters were made, and a messenger sent forth to the Lady Liones, praying her to give best counsel where Sir Gareth might be found. She answered that she could not then tell where he was, but she let proclaim a great tournament at her castle, and was sure that Sir Gareth would be heard of there. So King Arthur and all his knights of valour and prowess came together at the Lady Liones' castle by the Isle of Avilion, and great deeds of arms were done there. But most of all Sir Gareth gained honour, though no one knew that it was he, until a herald rode near him, and saw his name written about his helm. Wit ye well the king made great joy when he found Sir Gareth again, and ever he wept as he had been a child. With that came his mother the Queen of Orkney, and when she saw Sir Gareth really face to face, she suddenly fell down in a swoon. Then Sir Gareth comforted his mother in such a wise that she recovered, and made good cheer. And the Lady Liones came, among all the ladies there named the fairest and peerless. And there the king asked his nephew Sir Gareth whether he would have that lady to his wife. "My lord," said he, "wit ye well that I love her above all ladies." "Now, fair lady," said King Arthur, "what say ye?" "Most noble king," said Dame Liones, "wit ye well that my lord Gareth is to me more dear to have and to hold as my husband than any king or prince that is christened, and if ye will suffer him to have his will and free choice, I dare say he will have me." "That is truth," said Sir Gareth, "and if I have not you and hold not you as my wife, I wed no lady." "What, nephew," said the king, "is the wind in that door? Wit ye well I would not for the stint of my crown be causer to withdraw your hearts. Ye shall have my love and my lordship in the uttermost wise that may lie in my power." Then was there made a provision for the day of the marriage, and by the king's advice it should be at Michaelmas, following at Kink Kenadon by the seaside. And when the day came, the Bishop of Canterbury made the wedding betwixt Sir Gareth and the Lady Liones with great solemnity. And at the same time Gaheris was wedded to Lynette. When this solemnization was done, there came in the Green Knight, the Red Knight, and all the others that had yielded themselves to Sir Gareth, and did homage and fealty to hold their lands of him for ever, and desired to serve him at the feast. And the kings and queens, princes, earls, and barons, and many bold knights went unto meat. And well may ye wit that there was all manner of meat plenteously, all manner of revels and games, with all manner of minstrelsy that was used in those days. So they held the court 40 days with great solemnity. And this Sir Gareth was a noble knight, and a well-ruled, and fair-languaged. End of chapter 16. Chapter 17 of Stories of King Arthur and His Knights. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Stories of King Arthur and His Knights by Hugh Waldo Cutler. Chapter 17. There was a king called Meliodas, as likely a knight as any living, and he was lord of the country of Lyonesse. At that time King Arthur reigned supreme over England, Wales, Scotland, and many other realms, howbeit there were many lords of countries that held their lands under King Arthur. So also was the King of France subject to him, and the King of Brittany, and all the lordships as far as Rome. The wife of this King Meliodas was a full good and fair lady, called Elizabeth, the sister of King Mark of Cornwall. Well she loved her lord, and he her again, and there was much joy betwixt them. There was a lady in that country who bore ill will towards this king and queen, and therefore upon a day, as he rode on hunting, for he was a great chaser, she by an enchantment made him chase a hart by himself alone, till he came to an old castle, where anon she had him taken prisoner. When Queen Elizabeth missed her lord, she was nigh out of her wit, and she took a gentlewoman with her, and ran into the forest to seek him. When she was far in the forest and might go no farther, she sank down exhausted. For the default of help she took cold there, and she soon knew that she must die. So she begged her gentlewoman to commend her to King Meliodas, and to say that she was full sorry to depart out of this world from him, and that their little child, that was to have such sorrow even in his infancy, should be christened Tristram. Therewith this queen gave up the ghost, and died. The gentlewoman laid her under the shadow of a great tree, and right so there came the barons, following after the queen. When they saw that she was dead, they had her carried home, and much dole was made for her. The morn after his queen died, King Meliodas was delivered out of prison, and the sorrow he made for her, when he was come home, no tongue might tell. He had her richly interred, and afterwards, as she had commanded afore her death, had his child christened Tristram, the sorrowful born child. For 7 years he remained without a wife, and all that time young Tristram was nourished well. Then, when he had wedded King Howell's daughter of Brittany, and had other children, the stepmother was wroth that Tristram should be heir to the country of Lyonesse rather than her own son. Wherefore this jealous queen resolved to become rid of her stepson, and she put poison into a silver cup in the chamber where Tristram and her children were together, intending that when Tristram was thirsty he should drink it. But it happened that the queen's own son espied the cup with poison, and because the child was thirsty and supposed it was good drink, he took of it freely. Therewithal he died suddenly, and when the queen wist of the death of her son, wit ye well that she was heavy of heart. But yet the king understood nothing of her treason. Notwithstanding all this, the queen would not leave her jealousy, and soon had more poison put in a cup. By fortune King Meliodas, her husband, found the cup where was the poison, and being much thirsty he took to drink thereout. Anon the queen espied him, and ran unto him, and pulled the cup from him suddenly. The king marvelled why she did so, and remembered how her son was suddenly slain with poison. Then he took her by the hand, and said, "Thou false traitress, thou shalt tell me what manner of drink this is. Therewith he pulled out his sword, and swore a great oath that he should slay her if she told him not the truth. Then she told him all, and by the assent of the barons she was condemned to be burned as a traitress, according to the law. A great fire was made, and just as she was at the fire to take her execution, young Tristram kneeled afore King Meliodas, and besought of him a boon. "I grant it," said the king. Whereupon the youth demanded the life of the queen, his stepmother. "That is unrightfully asked," said King Meliodas, "for she would have slain thee if she had had her will, and for thy sake most is my cause that she should die." But Tristram besought his father to forgive her, as he himself did, and required him to hold his promise. Then said the king, "Since ye will have it so, I give her to you. Go ye to the fire and take her, and do with her what ye will." So Sir Tristram went to the fire, and by the commandment of the king delivered her from death. But thereafter King Meliodas would never have aught to do with her, though by the good means of young Tristram he at length forgave her. Ever after in her life she never hated her stepson more, but loved him and had great joy of him, because he saved her from the fire. But the king would not suffer him to abide longer at his court. End of chapter 17. Chapter 18. Of Stories of King Arthur and his Knights. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Stories of King Arthur and his Knights by Hugh Waldo Cutler. Chapter 18. Sir Tristram's first battle. King Meliodas sought out a gentleman that was well learned and taught, and with him, named Gouvernail, he sent young Tristram away from Lyonesse court into France, to learn the language and customs and deeds of arms. There he learned to be a harper passing all others of his time, and he also applied himself well to the gentlemanly art of hawking and hunting. For he that gentle is will draw unto him gentle qualities, and follow the customs of noble gentlemen. The old chronicle saith he adopted good methods for the chase, and the terms he used we have yet in hawking and hunting. Therefore the book of forest sports is called the Book of Sir Tristram. When he well could speak the language and had learned all that he might in that country, he came home again and remained in Cornwall until he was big and strong, of the age of 19 years, and his father, King Meliodas, had great joy of him. Then it befell that King Anguish of Ireland sent to King Mark of Cornwall for the tribute long paid him, but now 7 years behind. King Mark and his barons gave unto the messenger of Ireland the answer that they would no tribute pay, and bade him tell his king that if he wished tribute, he should send a trusty knight of his land to fight for it against another that Cornwall should find to defend its right. With this the messenger departed into Ireland. When King Anguish understood the answer, he was wonderfully wroth, and called unto him Sir Marhaus, the good and proved knight, brother unto the Queen of Ireland, and a knight of the Round Table, and said to him, "Fair brother, I pray you go into Cornwall for my sake, and do battle for the tribute that of right we ought to have." Sir Marhaus was not loath to do battle for his king and his land, and in all haste he was fitted with all things that to him needed, and so he departed out of Ireland, and arrived in Cornwall, even fast by the castle of Tintagil. When King Mark understood that the good and noble Sir Knight Marhaus was come to fight for Ireland, he made great sorrow, for he knew no knight that durst have ado with him. Sir Marhaus remained on his ship, and every day he sent word unto King Mark that he should pay the tribute, or else find a champion to fight for it with him. Then they of Cornwall let make cries in every place, that what knight would fight to save the tribute should be rewarded, so that he should fare the better the term of his life. But no one came to do the battle, and some counselled King Mark to send to the court of King Arthur to seek Sir Launcelot of the Lake, that at that time was named for the marvellousest knight of all the world. Others said it were labour in vain to do so, because Sir Marhaus was one of the knights of the Round Table, and any one of them would be loath to have ado with other. So the king and all his barons at the last agreed that it was no boot to seek any knight of the Round Table. Meanwhile came the language and the noise unto young Tristram, how Sir Marhaus abode battle fast by Tintagil, and how King Mark could find no manner of knight to fight for him. Then Sir Tristram was wroth and sore ashamed that there durst no knight in Cornwall have ado with Sir Marhaus, and he went unto his father King Meliodas, and said, "Alas, that I am not made knight! If I were, I would engage with him. I pray you give me leave to ride to King Mark to be made knight by him." "I will well," said the father, "that ye be ruled as your courage will rule you." So Tristram went unto his uncle, who quickly gave him the order of knighthood, and anon sent a messenger unto Sir Marhaus with letters that said he had found a young knight ready to take the battle to the uttermost. Then in all haste King Mark had Sir Tristram horsed and armed in the best manner that might be had or gotten for gold or silver, and he was put into a vessel, both his horse and he, and all that to him belonged both for his body and for his horse, to be taken to an island nigh Sir Marhaus' ships, where it was agreed that they should fight. And when King Mark and his barons beheld young Sir Tristram depart to fight for the right of Cornwall, there was neither man nor woman of honour but wept to see so young a knight jeopard himself for their right. When Sir Tristram was arrived at the island, he commanded his servant Gouvernail to bring his horse to the land and to dress his horse rightly, and then, when he was in the saddle well apparelled, and his shield dressed upon his shoulder, he commanded Gouvernail to go to his vessel again and return to King Mark. "And upon thy life," said he, "come thou not nigh this island till thou see me overcome or slain, or else that I win yonder knight." So either departed from other. When Sir Marhaus perceived this young knight seeking to encounter with himself, one of the most renowned knights of the world, he said, "Fair sir, since thou hopest to win honour of me, I will let thee wit honour mayest thou none lose by me, if thou mayest stand me 3 strokes, for I let thee wit for my noble deeds, proved and seen, King Arthur made me knight of the Table Round." Then they put spears in rest, and ran together so fiercely that they smote either other down, horse and all. Anon they pulled out their swords, and lashed together as men that were wild and courageous. Thus they fought more than half a day, and either was wounded passing sore, so that the blood ran down freshly from them upon the ground. By then Sir Tristram waxed more fresh than Sir Marhaus, and better winded, and bigger, and with a mighty stroke he smote Sir Marhaus upon the helm such a buffet, that it went through his helm and through the coif of steel, and through the brainpan, and the sword struck so fast in the helm and in his brainpan that Sir Tristram pulled thrice at his sword, or ever he might pull it out from his head. And there Marhaus fell down on his knees, the edge of Tristram's sword left in his brainpan. Suddenly Sir Marhaus rose grovelling, and threw his sword and his shield from him, and so ran to his ships and fled his way, sore groaning. Anon he and his fellowship departed into Ireland, and, as soon as he came to the king his brother, he had his wounds searched, and in his head was found a piece of Sir Tristram's sword. No surgeons might cure this wound, and so he died of Sir Tristram's sword. The piece of the sword the queen his sister kept ever with her, for she thought to be revenged if she might. Now turn we again unto Sir Tristram, that was sore wounded by a spear thrust of Sir Marhaus, so that he might scarcely stir. He sat down softly upon a little hill and bled fast. Then anon came Gouvernail his man with his vessel, and Sir Tristram was quickly taken back into the castle of Tintagil. He was cared for in the best manner possible, but he lay there a month and more, and ever he was like to die of the stroke from Sir Marhaus' spear, for, as the French book saith, the spear's head was envenomed. Then was King Mark passing heavy, and he sent after all manner of surgeons, but there was none that would promise him life. At last there came a right wise lady, and she said plainly that he should never be whole unless he went into the same country that the venom came from, and in that country he should be holpen, or else never. When King Mark understood that, he let provide for Sir Tristram a fair vessel, well victualled, and therein was put Sir Tristram and Gouvernail with him. Sir Tristram took his harp with him, and so they put to sea to sail into Ireland. End of chapter 18. 19 of Stories of King Arthur and His Knights. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Stories of King Arthur and His Knights by U. Waldo Cutler. Chapter 19. Sir Tristram and the Fair Isoud. By good fortune, Sir Tristram with Gouvernail arrived in Ireland fast by a castle where King Anguish and the Queen were. As he came to land, he sat and harped in his bed a merry lay, such as none in Ireland ever heard afore that time. And when the King and Queen were told of this stranger that was such a harper, anon they sent for him and let search his wounds, and then asked him his name. Then he answered, I am of the country of Lyonesse. My name is Tramtrist, and I was thus wounded in a battle, as I fought for a lady's right. Truly, said King Anguish, ye shall have all the help in this land that ye may. But I let you wit in Cornwall I had a great loss, as ever king had, for there I lost the best knight of the world. His name was Marhaus, a full noble knight of the Table Round. Then he told Sir Tristram wherefore Sir Marhaus was slain. Sir Tristram made semblant as if he was sorry, and yet better knew he how it was than the king. The king for great favour had Tramtrist put in his daughter's keeping, because she was a noble surgeon. When she searched his wound, she found that therein was poison, and so she healed him within a while. Therefore Tramtrist cast great devotion to the Fair Isoud, for she was at that time the fairest maid of the world. He taught her to harp, and she soon began to have a great fancy unto him. Then soon he showed himself to be so brave and true a knight in the jousts, that she had great suspicion that he was some man of honour proved, and she loved him more than heretofore. Thus was Sir Tramtrist long there well cherished by the king and the queen, and especially by Isoud the Fair. Upon a day as Sir Tramtrist was absent, the queen and Isoud roamed up and down in the chamber, and beheld his sword there as it lay upon his bed. And then by mishap the queen drew out the sword and regarded it a long while. Both thought it a passing fair sword, but within a foot and a half of the point there was a great piece thereof broken out of the edge. When the queen espied that gap in the sword, she remembered her of a piece of a sword that was found in the brain pan of Sir Marhaus her brother. Alas, then said she unto her daughter, the Fair Isoud, this is the traitor knight that slew thine uncle. When Isoud heard her say so, she was sore abashed, for much she loved Sir Tramtrist, and full well she knew the cruelness of her mother. Anon the queen went unto her own chamber and sought her coffer, and there she took out the piece of the sword that was pulled out of Sir Marhaus' head. Then she ran with that piece of iron to the sword that lay upon the bed, and when she put that piece unto the sword, it was as meet as it could be when new broken. The queen now gripped that sword in her hand fiercely, and with all her might ran straight to where she knew Tramtrist was, and there she would have thrust him through, had not a knight pulled the sword from her. Then when she was letted of her evil will, she ran to King Anguish, and told him on her knees what traitor he had in his house. The king was right heavy thereof, but charged the queen to leave him to deal with the knight. He went straight into the chamber unto Sir Tramtrist, that he found by now all ready armed to mount upon his horse. King Anguish saw that it was of no avail to fight, and that it was no honour to slay Sir Tramtrist while a guest within his court. So he gave him leave to depart from Ireland in safety, if he would tell who he was, and whether he slew Sir Marhaus. "Sir," said Tristram, "now I shall tell you all the truth. My father's name is Meliodas, king of Lyonesse, and my mother is called Elizabeth, that was sister unto King Mark of Cornwall. I was christened Tristram, but, because I would not be known in this country, I turned my name, and had myself called Tramtrist. For the tribute of Cornwall I fought for mine uncle's sake, and for the right of Cornwall that ye had possessed many years. And wit ye well I did the battle for the love of mine uncle King Mark, for the love of the country of Cornwall, and to increase mine honour." "Truly," said the king, "I may not say but ye did as a knight should; howbeit I may not maintain you in this country with my honour." "Sir," said Tristram, "I thank you for your good lordship that I have had with you here, and the great goodness my lady your daughter hath shown me. It may so happen that ye shall win more by my life than by my death, for in the parts of England it may be I may do you service at some season, so that ye shall be glad that ever ye showed me your good lordship. I beseech your good grace that I may take my leave of your daughter, and of all the barons and knights." This request the king granted, and Sir Tristram went unto the Fair Isoud, and took leave of her. And he told her all, what he was, how he had changed his name because he would not be known, and how a lady told him that he should never be whole till he came into this country where the poison was made. She was full woe of his departing, and wept heartily. "Madam," said Tristram, "I promise you faithfully that I shall be all the days of my life your knight." "Gramercy," said the Fair Isoud, "I promise you against that I shall not be married this 7 years but by your assent." Then Sir Tristram gave her a ring, and she gave him another, and therewith he departed from her, leaving her making great dole and lamentation. And he straight went unto the court among all the barons, and there he took his leave of most and least, and so departed and took the sea, and with good wind he arrived up at Tintagel in Cornwall. End of chapter 19. Chapter 20 of Stories of King Arthur and his Knights. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joy Chan. Stories of King Arthur and his Knights by U. Waldo Cutler. Chapter 20 How Sir Tristram demanded the Fair Isoud for King Mark, and how Sir Tristram and Isoud drank the love potion. When there came tidings that Sir Tristram was arrived and whole of his wounds, King Mark was passing glad, and so were all the barons. And Sir Tristram lived at the court of King Mark in great joy long time, until at the last there befell a jealousy and an unkindness between them. Then King Mark cast always in his heart how he might destroy Sir Tristram. The beauty and goodness of the Fair Isoud was so praised by Sir Tristram that King Mark said he would wed her, and prayed Sir Tristram to take his way into Ireland for him as his messenger, to bring her to Cornwall. All this was done to the intent to slay Sir Tristram. Notwithstanding, Sir Tristram would not refuse the message for any danger or peril, and made ready to go in the goodliest wise that might be devised. He took with him the goodliest knights that he might find in the court, arrayed them after the guise that was then used, and so departed over sea with all his fellowship. Anon as he was in the broad sea a tempest took them, and drove them back into the coast of England. They came to land fast by Camelot, and there Sir Tristram set up his pavilion. Now it fell that King Anguish of Ireland was accused of slaying by treason a cousin of Sir Launcelot of the Lake, and just at this time he was come to the court at the summoning of King Arthur, upon pain of forfeiture of his lands. Yet ere he arrived at Camelot, he wist not wherefore he was sent after. When he heard the accusation, he understood full well there was no remedy but to answer it knightly, for the custom was in those days that if any man were accused of any treason or murder, he should fight body for body, or else find another knight to fight for him. Now King Anguish grew passing heavy when he heard his accusing, for the knights of King Ban's blood, as Sir Launcelot was, were as hard men to win in battle as any then living. The meanwhile Sir Tristram was told how King Anguish was come thither in great distress, and he sent Gouvernail to bring him to his pavilion. When Sir Tristram saw the king coming, he ran unto him, and would have holden his stirrup, but King Anguish leapt lightly from his horse, and either embraced other heartily. Sir Tristram remembered his promise, made when departing from Ireland, to do service to King Anguish if ever it lay in his power, and never had there been so great need of knights' help as now. So when King Anguish told Sir Tristram all, Sir Tristram took the battle for the sake of the good lordship showed him in Ireland, and for the sake of the Fair Isoud, upon the condition that King Anguish grant 2 things. One was that he should swear that he was in the right, and had never consented to the death of the knight. The second request was to be granted after the battle, if God should speed him therein. King Anguish quickly granted Sir Tristram whatsoever he asked, and anon departed unto King Arthur's judges, and told them he had found a champion ready to do the battle for him. So Sir Tristram fought for King Anguish, and overcame his adversary, a most noble knight. Then King Anguish and Sir Tristram joyfully took their leave, and sailed into Ireland with great nobleness. When they were in Ireland the king let make it known throughout all the land how and in what manner Sir Tristram had done for him. Then the queen and all that were there made the most of him that they might, but the joy that the Fair Isoud made of Sir Tristram no tongue might tell, for of men earthly she loved him most. Then upon a day King Anguish would know from Sir Tristram why he asked not his boon, for whatsoever had been promised he should have without fail. "Sir," said Tristram, "now is it time, and this is what I desire, that ye will give me the Fair Isoud your daughter, not for myself, but for mine uncle King Mark, that shall have her to wife, for so have I promised him." "Alas," said the king, "I had rather than all the land that I have ye would wed her yourself." "Sir," said Sir Tristram, "if I did, then were I ashamed for ever in this world, and false of my promise. Therefore I pray you hold your promise that ye gave me, for this is my desire, that ye will give me the Fair Isoud to go with me into Cornwall, to be wedded to King Mark, mine uncle." "As for that," said King Anguish, "ye shall have her with you to do with her what it please you. That is to say, if ye list to wed her yourself, that is to me lievest, and if ye will give her unto King Mark, that is in your choice." So to make a short conclusion, the Fair Isoud was made ready to go with Sir Tristram, and Dame Bragwaine went with her for her chief gentlewoman, with many others. The queen, Isoud's mother, gave to Dame Bragwaine and unto Gouvernail a drink, and charged them that what day King Mark should wed, that same day they should give him that drink. "And then," said the queen, "I undertake either shall love other the days of their life." So this drink was given unto Dame Bragwaine and unto Gouvernail, and then anon Sir Tristram took the sea with the Fair Isoud. When they were in the cabin it happened that they were thirsty, and they saw a little flask of gold stand by them, that seemed by the colour and the taste to be noble wine. Then Sir Tristram took the flask in his hand, and said, "Madam Isoud, here is the best drink that ever ye drank, that Dame Bragwaine your maid and Gouvernail my servant have kept for themselves." Then they laughed and made good cheer, and either drank to other, thinking never drink was so sweet or so good. But after they had drunk that magic wine, they loved either other so truly that never their love departed either for weal or for woe. So they sailed on till by fortune they came into Cornwall. There all the barons met them, and anon King Mark and the Fair Isoud were richly wedded with great splendour. But ever, as the French book saith, Sir Tristram and the Fair Isoud loved each other truly, and his life long he was her loyal and honourable knight. End of chapter 20.